What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Line of the Stars. I'm Jordan, and we are back today with another episode of Fett's Vette. And man, it has been a week since we've done any work on here because I've had to stop and think about what I'm going to do next. I have wanted to incorporate some storytelling into this model. I think that one of the biggest things that attracts me to Star Wars and Star Trek is the history, the storytelling. The fact that both franchises have been around for 45 plus years now at this point, there's a rich history. When you think of Star Wars ships, you think of the Millennium Falcon, obviously. There are other ships that are pretty iconic in the series. Think of the Ghost from Rebels, and you've seen, because of the popularity of Rebels, you've seen the Ghost in Rogue One, and in The Rise of Skywalker, and then most recently in Ahsoka. And it is another one of those classic ships. But for me, and when I think of Star Wars, obviously I think of the Millennium Falcon. But the secondary ship to that is going to be Fett's Vette. Now, I know, I'm going to start by saying this, and maybe YouTube will flag me for it or what have you. I do know that the name of this ship is the Slave One. I choose not to say that for the sake that YouTube does not like that word, and I don't use it. I'm well aware of the name of the ship, well aware of the name of the history of the ship, but I am choosing not to use it. I also think that Fett's Vette is a more clever and fun series name, and so that's also why I chose that. So I've had a few commenters tell me, hey, the name of it is Slave One, and I understand that, and I know that when I refer to it in my private time, I also refer to it as that. I understand that that's the name of the ship. But that being said, algorithms on YouTube will flag me for saying certain things, and so that's why I choose to do that. So there's a history here, and that change of name is also part of the history. Whether that change of name we can consider canon, well, guess what, friends? It is canon. There's nothing we can do about it. Disney owns Star Wars, and they're going to change the name of it, and so we have to live with it. I'm going to go ahead and know that the Slave One is a Legends name at this point, and I'm going to be totally fine with it. I'm not going to focus on the details. I'm not going to worry about the anxiety and all that surrounding the name. I know what it's called, and for this series, I'm calling it Fett's Vette. I just kind of wanted to clarify that for videos, because I've had a few comments saying that, hey, you should call it this. And I'm like, yes, I know. But I choose not to do that for getting flag purposes. So, once again, that's part of the history of this ship. And like all of the ships in Star Wars, they have a long history. And this one, I really wanted to tell a storytelling aspect that, Boba got his ship from his father, Jango. And Jango and Boba both basically painted their ships to match their armor. Now, the idea behind what I have right now is, this is kind of like a late idea. If I had thought about this sooner, I would have applied this method sooner, and that's going to be chipping. That said, however, I think I got a clever way of applying it in a couple different places, and we're going to start today with applying some of Jango's colors on the bottom. So what my idea is that when Boba took over the ship, Jango had a real nice paint job. Boba also chose to do a nice paint job on it, but whoever did, and I'm going to say it was the Bothans because we don't know who they are, what they look like, and, well, we can blame it on the Bothans, and I think that's very easy. Boba took it to the Bothans to have it painted, and they did a crappy job. That's why his ship is just weathered the crap out of. The paint is chipping. It is peeling everywhere. It is just basically fading everywhere. And that includes down here underneath where they thought that nobody would be looking, despite the fact that, the ship flies face forward like this. They weren't thinking, and they chose to not strip the paint off. And they chose not to do that in a couple different places, and we'll be employing this elsewhere. But how we're going to be doing it today is, now I'm going to be going out on a limb here and just trying something. I've been thinking about this for a couple of days, actually probably more like a week, on how I'd employ this. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go ahead and put a base coat of our gloss black lacquer across the entire bottom here. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go in these stripes here, because what Boba did is he chose to keep the front stripe. So on Django's version of the Slave One, he basically, his outside was blue and he had a much more stylized pattern on the outside of the hull. Boba just chose to keep the gunmetal gray up front and then go with the regular rusty color of his armor on the rest. Well, for what Boba did, or what Django did, is, the difference is he had the, where the gunmetal was up front, he also had a strip of gunmetal here as well. So when we turn these over, my idea is we're going to go ahead and put the black lacquer, the gloss black down. And then this is the color that we're going to be using on the Razor Crest. This is going to be the Extreme Metal AK. It's going to be the AK-479 aluminum. I've kind of looked at the Duralinium. I've looked at the white aluminum. I think that aluminum was the best color for the choice, or the best choice for the Razor Crest, and I want to get comfortable with spraying it. So what my idea is we're going to go ahead and do the entire bottom. Basically, like, most of this is not going to be seen. But I'm going to go ahead and paint it for the sake of quality. I'm going to go ahead and get it covered entirely. But then we're going to go ahead and do that aluminum strips right down the back on both sides. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mask that off. And then I'm going to take the just flat blue, the XF8, and I'm going to spray that across the rest. Okay? And then after that dries, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of our chipping medium. I'm going to brush the chipping medium on. That was a tough one to say. And in a couple different spots, we're going to put Fett's Rust over the top. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and get our water on in the areas where the chipping medium happened to be. And then I'm just going to let it chip off. And the idea is that underneath Fett's Rust, you're going to see the base colors of Django's ship coming through. And I know this is not screen accurate. We really can't see into the cowl too well. I've watched a bunch of scenes to see if you can see inside, and you really kind of can't. So, and if you can, whatever. I just think this is going to be a really cool storytelling aspect of it, and I'm going to choose to kind of approach this in the same way in a couple different spots as well. But that's how it's going to go, and then from there, we'll kind of come back at the end of the episode. So, there's going to be me talking at the beginning, lots of painting in the middle, just kind of quiet time with some music, and then from there, we're going to come back and talk about the job and see how it turned out. I don't know if this is going to be successful. I think it is. I'm going to be using all the skills that I've learned so far, and the only thing that I'm going to be adding new to the mix is going to be the chipping medium. I have not used this before. Vallejo's quality is suspect at best, but once again, it's something that I bought very early on, haven't opened it or used it, and so we're just going to see how it goes. I'm going to turn my volume down because the paint booth is really, really loud. I'm going to go ahead and turn up the music, and I'm going to go ahead and lay down all of the different paints, and we'll come back at the end and see how it all goes. So, wish me some luck. Here we go. All right, we are back. Now, I learned a couple things. One, I need to give more time for that lacquer, specifically the aluminum, to dry. I put tape over the top of it almost about, it was about an hour or so after it came out of the booth. And then when I pulled the tape, things happened. Although, as is the way, this is the way with this model, I got lucky and it kind of created a bit of a weathering effect. Overall, though, however, I'm pleased with the effect. We have still some of the blue coming through in the areas where we're not going to be seeing anything. Yeah, and this is still pretty tacky, which is actually what we're looking for. And then we got our nice base coat right along here. And it turned out really good. And then up here, as you can see, this is where we had a lot of the tackiness from the tape. And it wound up creating a bit of this effect after I put the chipping medium on. So, what we're going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and come through with my brush. And I have some water here. And I'm going to find some spots. And I'm just going to run. I basically ran the chipping medium along the areas where we'll be able to see. And I'm just going to basically put a bunch of water down, and then we're going to do that for both sides, and then I'm going to let this sit for a while. It may be a day, it may be a couple of days, I don't know, but I'm going to let this sit for a little bit, and then we will come back and I'll show you how everything turned out, and it's going to be interesting. So I'll go ahead and show you the first part here. I'm just going to go ahead and get some water down, and I'm going to find my lines. I want to focus on all of my panel lines. That's going to be the big area where I want to go. Just like that. Run down like that. There. And I'm going to go heavy on the water right here. We're just going to do one of these motions. You got water on the whole thing. What the water does is basically, if you're not aware, chipping is using hairspray basically. And the water kind of causes the paint that's underneath the layers to separate. So, it's kind of an interesting process actually. Okay, so now, let's go ahead and do the same thing over here. So I'm going to run along this panel line first. Go heavy along the edge here. Find every one of my panel lines. And this is just, once again, water. And right here along the edge, I'm going to go super heavy. Same thing over here. Find some panel lines. I'm going to go heavy along the end, just like that. Just like so. Okay. Spot, spot, spot. There we go. Now I'm going to go really heavy. Right through here. Alright. So there we are. We got our water down over the chipping medium. Over the top of our paint. Let's see what happens. I've never done this before, so I'm super curious. So, I'm going to let this sit for however long it needs to sit for. And we will be back. Okay, I'm back like 5 minutes later. And I figured something out. We don't need to wait too long. So check this out. Went ahead and took my weathering brush, my stiff edge, and I dipped it in some water. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of do that. And it just pulls paint out. If I had only known about this chipping solution when I was doing this on the other side, man. So, now, I'm just going to find some panel lines here. Specifically around the edge. Do this on top of a towel that I've been abusing all day. And you just find some panel lines from spots. I don't want to go too crazy. but definitely along some panel lines here. A couple of the edge pieces. Like, we want to be able to see this. I want someone to be able to look at it and go, hey, what's that all about? And then think about it for a second and be like, hey, that's cool. That's kind of the idea. So, yeah, you don't really need to wait too long. You can just come in here and physically do it yourself, like right now. I'm just going to kind of strip off a little bit of that overlay. Come over here into the corner. Into an area where I'm not really going to see too much. Yeah. I like that. I'm going to expose a big swath of blue right here. A big swath of it. Left a little bit sitting outside the panel line right there, which is perfect. Yeah, that looks good. I like that. And then we're going to be a little bit more gentle over on the side. Maybe the Bothans realized what they were doing and tried before Boba unleashed some fury on them. Try to do a better job. Okay, I'm going to let this sit for a couple more minutes, and then I'm going to dry this off, and then I think it's time we can throw down a clear coat. Excellent news. All right, we will be back. All right, we're back. Now, I went ahead and threw down a clear coat, and I gotta say, I'm really pleased with the effect that we got here. I've learned a couple things. One, I brushed on the chipping medium, and it probably should have been sprayed. It went on a little thick, and I did wind up having a little bit of an issue cleaning it up. Now, I got my trying to turn out my lights as much as I can. The one thing that did kind of like turn out to me is that putting the gloss black and then the blue and then the base over the top, it just kind of washed out the rusty effect on this part, but it actually kind of like goes into the storytelling too as well. Like I said, you know, the Bothans were lazy, and they were lazy right here, and it came through. But on the areas where we really got the chipping effect, and also I learned that this stuff works better over metallic type paints. So where we did wind up getting our chipping effect done here on the silver up front, turned out really, really well. I'm very pleased with how this turned out. I learned something, and it's something I'm going to be employing with all of my models going forward. So, yeah, this was pretty cool. This was a really great effect. I got our clear on. Everything's all sealed up and ready to go. I am going to declare these cowl pieces done outside of maybe a little bit of panel liner. I'm waiting for some of that to arrive right now. So, that's what I got for you today. This was a cool one, you guys. I'm really excited about that. So, I just want to say thank you. I know that there was a million things you all could have done today. Instead, you spent a couple minutes with me watching me build a model, which I think is pretty damn cool. If you guys have any questions, comments, tips, tricks, please leave them down below. If you'd like to support the channel, please like and subscribe. And my friends, until we see each other again, I hope you all have a wonderful day in this beautiful world where we happen to be. And just remember that this is the way.